Morning everybody, my name's Shane Young, I'm the Head of Commercial and Partnerships at Barnsley Modern Chamber. This week we've been running a series of events to support Mental Health Awareness Month of May. This is also part of the objectives of our Chambers Health and Wellbeing Forum. So thank you for joining us. Today's webinar is going to focus on mental health and wellbeing, time for transition. Today's speakers are members of our Health and Wellbeing Forum, and we've got Lawrence and Ches Moulton. Mike is a successful health and wellbeing consultant, and his knowledge, experience and achievements have not only brought him national and international acclaim, but a constant stream of private and corporate clients. Ches's career has spanned over 25 years and took him all over the world. He's regarded as the UK's leading authority on stress management. He's a strong voice in calling for a different approach to dealing with chronic stress. So I'm sure you're in capable hands this morning. Both speakers are also award winners and successful authors. So before I pass over to them, as we always do, just to let you know, we're recording this webinar and we'll be sending it out through the Chamber network afterwards on the website, YouTube and social media. All participants are going to be muted. However, if you've got any questions, please just raise your digital hand, pop them in the chat box, put Mike and Ches on the spot, so to speak, and we'll pick them up as we go. So I'll now pass over to Ches and Mike, who will get us started. Over to you guys.
All right. Good morning, everyone. According to Mike, I lost the coin toss, so I get to go first. But I'm always pleased to be an opener for Mike Lawrence any day of the week and twice on Sunday. Now I'm going to share my screen, and then I'm going to turn my camera off because I'm also having an issue here on my side, and you don't want to need to look at me. You should be looking at the slides anyway. So just let me stop. I'll come back on when I finish the presentation. Right. So here we are. Welcome to Mental Health and Wellbeing Time for Transition. This is our we're the people who have been chosen to close the Chamber's Mental Health and Awareness Week, and this is the presentation that we put together to do just that. So with no further ado, I'm a certified stress management consultant. So I'm going to talk about stress for the next 15 or 20 minutes, and then I'm going to give you a couple of techniques that will help you get more and better sleep. So along the way to getting all that done, if we're going to talk about something, let's define it first. So what is the definition of stress? Well, a lot of people will use the word stress, I find, as an adjective or a verb. They're always talking about, well, I've got stress, or I'm getting stress, or I'm stressed out. Whereas stress is really a noun, because stress is a word that describes something that's already built inside of us. We have a mechanism that we're born with. There's our stress mechanism, and we can't get rid of it. And we wouldn't want to either. So the definition of stress is about being a mechanism inside of us, and the word is really a noun. Now, what happens is that when the resources that we have are not enough, when the demand on us outweighs the supply that we have to cope with the things in our life, the stress that we have, that's when bad things are going to happen. That's when untenable situations come up. So there are only two types of stress. Let's examine those now and get into the presentation. So the first type of stress that I want to talk about, again, is that, I mentioned it already briefly, is that mechanism that we're born with, that survival mechanism. It's literally there to save our life on one extreme, but it's also there to help us in times of desperate need and when the going is really tough. And so, for example, if we were on a trekking holiday, if you were on a trekking holiday out in Southeast Asia or down in Africa somewhere, or if you were somewhere maybe in Australia, I don't know if they got any tigers down there or not. They got a few out in Southeast Asia. You're on a trekking holiday. You and your mates, your friends, are going down the trail, and you go around the path, and you go around the bend, and all of a sudden, maybe 100 feet down in the distance, you see this tiger. and the tiger looks up at you. Well, that's when that inbuilt stress mechanism that you have, which is your sympathetic nervous system, that's when that's going to kick in. The brain chemicals start to kick off, the adrenaline starts to pump, your muscles get larger, the blood flows, your response time increases, because that's when you're going to either fight, flight, or freeze. And that's what's going to happen when this type of a situation happens. So I call that mechanism positive stress. Now, there's another one, and this is the one that we're probably on here today to talk about, which is that stress that everybody finds to be, mentally, emotionally debilitating, burnout. If you suffer from this kind of stress long enough, you're going to get burned out. It's the kind of unwanted stress that you may be experiencing now and are looking for solutions to get to either get rid of or to manage. Let's just call it manage and control it. Now, I call that stress, would you believe, negative stress. So that's the kind of stress that we're going to talk about now. So in order to do that, let's try to understand what stress really is and where it comes from, because you can't start to fix something unless you understand what it is you're trying to fix. So I've come up with what I call the 3 M's of understanding stress. The first one is that stress is not medical. Now, it's true that high stress levels, that aren't addressed correctly can lead to burnout and all kinds of physical, mental, and emotional maladies. But let's talk about the physical ones first, because that's where the medical comes in. I find that most of the approaches to dealing with this kind of stress focus on how to treat the symptoms instead of the cause of it. So the stress that wasn't a medical issue to start with has now become the focus and treatment. And no wonder it does nothing to alleviate your elevated level of stress. So then the next one is mental. So this is the second M of understanding stress. See, stress is not a mental issue. Now, I know you might be thinking, okay, just a moment, Ches. Surely not being stressed is all about positive mental health. So how can it not be a mental issue? Well, we're not born with built-in levels of stress so intense that they make our lives miserable. We are, though, gifted with that positive stress, the stress, and its wonderful life-protecting system. So here comes the absolute fact. This is 100% truth about the negative stress that you think you're having to deal with in your life, the end stress. The one who creates it, the one who promotes it, and the one who drives it, wait for it, it's you. Yes, you. That's why getting your stress sorted out is all about management, because only you can manage your stress. It's not about tea, it's not about plants, it's not about fresh air, warm baths. It's just simply about you. So let's find out a little bit more about you. So if you're a human and you're alive on the planet today and you're functioning, then there are only 3 things that you do. You think, you feel, and you behave. And that's it. Now, behavior can be subdivided into actions and reactions, but that's it. That's all we do as a human. We think, we feel, and we behave. Now, if we're humans and we're functioning on the planet today, let's examine what we have here on the planet, on Earth. And that would be people, places, and things. So it's how you think, feel, and behave in relation to those people, places, and things that dictate the quality of your life, that dictate the level of your stress. And when I talk about people, places, and things, the first people on that list would be yourself. So it's almost like a closed loop. How do you think, feel, and behave in relation to how you think, feel, and behave about everything around you, the other people, places, and things? So there are only 4 negative stressors that impact us. And I'm going to go through this quickly. So the first one is time. Now, time is fixed. It's not manageable. Yeah. So therefore, time management techniques usually only address the symptoms. It's how we think, feel, and behave in relation to the time we have to do whatever it is we want to get done or we need to get done. So again, it reflects more back on us. It's not about the time, because listen, there's only 60 minutes in an hour and there's only 24 hours in a day for everybody. So it's not about how you manage your time, it's about how you manage yourself in the time. And that, when done correctly, will help to alleviate, help to bring down those elevated levels of stress and allow you to be able to control your stress more to your satisfaction. So the second N stressor, the second negative stressor then, is anticipation. Now, this one here, again, it's all about how we think, feel, and behave. So people who suffer from anticipatory stress are people who are always worried about the future. They're people who think at best failure and at worst disaster. But there's a whole other continuum that doesn't have either one of those on it. So what I would suggest, in a couple of quick sentences, if you suffer from anticipatory stress, look for clarity, seek clarity on the various scenarios, on the things that are going on, what's happening. And when you've had your your negative self-talk rant, and well, what if it all goes wrong? What if they don't do? And what if it fails? And what if the sky falls in? And what if it all goes bad? Do yourself a favor and do the people around you a favor. And I can tell you, you'll be doing the people around you a favor, right? So do us all a favor and have a positive self-talk rant. So if you negative self-talk for 10 minutes, well, what if it all goes, and what if it all goes, and what if it all doesn't go, and what if it all doesn't go, and what if they don't sign, what if I don't get the agreement, what if I don't get the contract, what if it fails, and what if they don't deliver on time? Have a positive well, what if it all goes right? What happens if they do deliver on time? What happens if I end up getting a contract and a bonus? What happens if all the good stuff happens? And give yourself a break and give yourself some balance in the exercise, right? So the next one is situation. This is the third negative stressor that we suffer from, and once again, it's just about how we think to ourselves, and thinking always comes first. So nothing happens without a thought, and then the feelings get out of the gate, and then the behaviors come as a result of that. So people who suffer from situation stressors are people who feel that they have no control over events. They're people who are afraid to make a mistake because they feel that they're going to either be made to look foolish at best or maybe at worst be humiliated, right? So again, just become aware of your thoughts and your feelings that would lead you to different behavior, right? And concentrate on the things that will give you confidence and the positive bits in all of what you're doing. And the fourth one then is encounter. An encounter, somebody who suffers from an encounter stressor are people who suffer from interaction with other people. They have to deal with people that they may not like. Maybe they're dealing with people who are unpredictable. So couple of things that you can do there is you can start to hone in a little bit more, maybe upskill your people skills. Maybe you want to tweak your social skills a bit better, yeah? And learn how you can deal with various different types of personalities, people that you would encounter in your life and in your career. Now, very quickly, what I want to do is I want to explain to you 2 techniques that you can use that I guarantee you will provide you with more and better sleep. I don't have the time this morning to explain to you why I know I can guarantee it will work, but just believe that it's a confluence between your subconscious mind, your conscious mind, and your brain. And if you're a human and you're alive and you're functioning on the planet today, both of these techniques will work. I can never tell by looking at somebody which one will work better than the other. Both of them will work, but one will work better than the other. So I'm going to explain both techniques. You use both techniques, and after you've used them a couple of times, you'll automatically just be able to realize which one worked for you better than the other one, which of course then is the one that you're going to be drawn to. And before we do that, you might want to write down this number, 0775 971 6374. Now that's my mobile number. I don't give that out willy-nilly everywhere I go, but I do when I explain this, because if this doesn't work for you, I want to know about it. I need to know about it. And I'm going to have a couple of questions. One is, where's your spaceship? And take me to your leader. Because if these don't work, then you're not human. All right? I guarantee you these will work. Here are the techniques. So you're laying in your, so there you are, you're laying on your mattress, you got your duvet pulled up over you, and you got your eyes closed, and please close your eyes. It helps when you're trying to get to sleep. But before I go down that road, just let me explain something so you can identify with this then first. So when we talk about people with sleep disorders, because that's what we're talking about, yeah, let's not cover it over and be nice about it and say people just have some sleep issues once in a while. If you suffer from what I'm about to explain to you, you have a sleeping disorder, plain and simple. So category 1, people sometimes, some people, they lay down in the bed at night and they have problems, getting off to sleep. Once they do get off to sleep, they end up sleeping through the night. They get up in the morning and start their day. Category 2, people that they don't seem to have any problem getting off to sleep when they go lay down at night, but they wake up in the middle of the night, and then they start thinking about all their stuff, all their meetings, all their commitments, all their stuff, the neighbor, the truck, the dog, the in-laws, the customer, the supplier, whatever it happens to be. I call this mind travel, and so they'll lay there and they mind travel. Anywhere from 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour. I've had clients tell me they mind travel for an hour and a half. Can you believe that? An hour and a half? So what happens is when they finally do end up back at sleep, it's not because they've gone to sleep, it's because they were so exhausted that they just fell off to sleep out of exhaustion. They wake up in the morning when the alarm goes off and they get up. They don't feel rested because they've lost an hour and a half of sleep that they needed to have, and they're tired because of all of the mental and sometimes emotional exercises that they've done for that 40 minutes, 20 minutes, hour and a half sometimes. And so that's category 2. Category 3 are people that are category 1 and 2 combined. And so there are people out there that have a problem getting to sleep and still wake up in the middle of the night. So you'll have to determine which one you are. Here are the 2 techniques. So you're in your bed, you got the duvet, and you got your eyes closed. The first thing I want you to do then is I want you to feel your toes. Now, I don't mean like, slide your hand farther down underneath and, tickle your feet or something. I mean, just become aware of your toes. Just become aware of your toes. Just think of your toes, and maybe you have to wiggle them or something, I don't know. But you'll become aware of your toes. And then once you become aware of your toes, you can become aware of your toes on the front end of your foot. Just relax your toes. And you can relax the little pads underneath the toenails. You can relax the toes themselves, going down into the foot, into the base of the foot. Just relax your toes. And some people have different combinations. They relax all on one foot or one each on going across the 2. It doesn't matter. Whatever you do, relax your feet. Relax your toes. Then when you've done that, relax the balls of your feet. Then relax the arch. Then relax the heel. Now the heel's a bit special because when we think of relaxing the heel, we feel that it might get a little bit heavier. And that's okay. It'll sink down and make that little extra indentation in the mattress. And then your ankle, then your shin, then your calf. Your calf is similar. When we think about when the calf is constricted, it's tight. But when we think about relaxing the calf, and we have that image that it gets, it relaxes out, it gets bigger, fatter, heavier. So again, your leg will start to sink down and make that little indentation in the mattress. And then you go to your knee, the front of your thigh, the back of your thigh. Now let's stop there because there's a couple of caveats that are coming up for both of these techniques, and I'll cover them right now. One, you're going to start, when you do this exercise and you do it correctly, this particular technique, you'll never, ever, ever get past your hips before you'll be asleep if you do it correctly. And what I'm telling you is half of the way to do it correctly. Here's the rest of it. So as you're going along, you're going to start to mind travel, whether you're in category 1 or category 2, you're going to start to mind travel a bit. But it's funny, isn't it? We never recognize we're doing the mind travel as we're doing, or when we start, only after we've been doing it for a while. All right? Hang on a minute, I've been thinking about all my stuff. Let me get back to this thing this guy Ches was telling me about. Not a problem, right? No shame, no blame. Just come down. Yeah. If you can remember the last body part you were at, just pick up where you left off and keep going. But if you can't, you have to go back and start at your toes. And then you'll start again. And, you may even get to your heel. I don't know. You may get to the balls of your feet. You may get to your shin. I don't know. Everybody's different. But at some point in time, you might start to realize that you've drifted off thinking about your thoughts again. And you'll come back. And again, if you can remember where you are, great, start again. If not, start back at your toes. And you'll do this a couple of times, and then you'll be asleep. Okay? Technique number 2 is cognitive. So you're laying in your bed again, you get your duvet, get your eyes closed, and all the rest of it. The fan's on, trying to keep you cool. And what I want you to do is, I want you to say the number 100. So you breathe in, you say the number 100. When you breathe out, I know it sounds corny, but just work with me here because this is the technique that works. Say the word sleep. Breathe in again, 99. Sleep. 98. Sleep. 97. Sleep. So on and so forth. Now, a couple of things. It's critical to the success of this technique. The number is always on the in-breath. The word sleep is always on the out-breath. And you call me and tell me it's not working, and I'm going to ask you if this is the one you're doing. The first thing I'm going to ask you is what's on the in-breath. And if you don't tell me the number, I'm going to hang up. All right? So it's important. The number is always on the in-breath. Now, again, the same caveats, right? You're going to be counting down and you realize, I've gone off and started thinking about all my stuff. Let me get back to this thing Ches was telling me about. No problem. If you can remember what was your last number, just take the next number down. Simple. But if you can't, you have to go back and start at 100. And that's what I want you to do. So these are 2 techniques that will, one is somnambulistic, the other one's cognitive. Both of them will work, but one will always work a little bit better for everybody than the other one. I just can't tell which one it is for any one particular person. So I hope that those techniques that you'll use these techniques to help you get more and better sleep. And at this point in time, all I can wish you is pleasant dreams. Now, if you like a little bit about what you've heard, you've got a couple of options. I've written a couple of books. How to Get Control of Your Stress Instead of Stress Controlling You is my latest book. It's just become available on Amazon last month. And my first book, which I wrote back in 2015, Choice and Change, and that went on to become an international bestseller. That's also there as well. That will tell you who we are, talks about who we are, how we got this way, and of course I offer some suggestions as to what we can do when we want to change. And the How to Get Control of Your Stress, it is what it says on the tin. There's lots of good tips and techniques and explanations in that book that will help you get control of your stress, appropriately named. So that's me done. I'm a certified stress management consultant. That's the authority on which I come on here this morning and pretend to tell you anything that I know that might be of some value to you that would help you with your negative stress. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and welcome everybody back in. And I want to thank you. I really want to thank you for coming into the meeting. Thank you for the opportunity for me to share my knowledge with you. And I hope I've been able to give you some ideas and some tips and techniques that will help you get control of your stress. Thank you very much. Mike?
Awesome. Thanks, Ches. That was really good. Picked up a lot of good things myself, even though that in a similar sort of industry, you can never stop learning. Even like the last sort of techniques that you showed us, the cognitive and the somnalistic, was it?
Somnamblistic, yeah.
Somnalistic, that's right. Yeah, because I do sort of like guided meditation and hypnotherapy with many clients. And so I find that a really useful tip. Sometimes better if you can do, I always say, yes, there are apps out there such as Headspace and Calm, which are useful, I think, when you can use your own mind and your own energy to do things, is pretty good. So without further ado, I'm just going to set up my slides. But before I actually share my slides, I just wanted to show you something. Well, just read something out to you, which came through this morning. I don't know if many people subscribe to the World Economic Forum at all. I think they're part of the World Economic Forum, and every week I get lots of information on what's happening in society and the world. And obviously now, as we're coming out of the global pandemic, and a lot of things are being affected, jobs and things about the future. I thought it'd be quite an interesting article that I've been reading this morning about the top 10 jobs of the future that could be. Number one, work from home facilitator. The second one, a fitness commitment counselor. Anybody in here can recognize or resonate with any of these roles, please feel free to put your hand up in the air. We've also got a smart home design manager. Number four, we have an XR immersion counselor. And then number five, sitting at number five, we have a workplace environmental architect, which is everything from health screenings to elevator communities in a post-pandemic office architecture. And also, it's about the importance of employee well-being. And this is what obviously myself and Ches and many within the Barnes and Rotherham forum, it's all about advancing the knowledge and providing education and information for people's sort of well-being. So you can see here that the World Health Organization and the World Economic Forum, the importance they put on people's well-being, especially as at the moment in time we're transitioning from, many people are working from home and transitioning into the workplace. And they talk about the importance of employee well-being. And this actually leads into what I'll be going to be talking about in a moment when I get my slides up in terms of people's well-being. So spare me a second. I'll get our slides. Where's the share screen? There we go. Lovely. Those who've got their screens, can you all see that? Okay. Right then, just a thumbs up to make sure you can all see that. Awesome, brilliant, cool. So good. So you heard the wonderful Ches speak, and first I hope you got a lot of value from that presentation. Now I want to take you through is that transition out of lockdown and into the workplace. And I'm going to be talking about some of the challenges facing our mental health and well-being at the moment in time. Some of you may or may not have come across the term, reboarding. Up until recently, I was familiar with the term onboarding and bringing in, new members of staff members of staff into the workplace. Now we have this term called reboarding, where this is bringing people who's been working from the home into the workplace. And also just communications, the lack of communication between employees and employers, and what we can do, anybody who's a manager or in charge of people, what we can actually do to improve that. And then a takeaway, which is some 5 keys, 5 tips, which is essential for people who are responsible for groups of people in organisations and what they can do. That's a bit of blurb about myself. You know, around about this year, I think it was, it's probably about more or less a year ago, I did a presentation. I think Ches, during that week as well, and some others within the forum did a presentation. And this was, and I just found it was quite interesting. This slide here was actually in that presentation. And at the time, that was around about May, so we're just a couple of months down the line. And I think a lot of us hoping that if we meet the government targets, which were set at the time, that would be, you know, that we would be back into the workplace and everything back to, you know, to the norm. And who would have thought 14, 15 months later, these sorts of images that we see here would still be quite relevant now. I was, you know, quite relevant for now. And also, you know, about a year ago, and even now, because we are transitioning out, lockdown has affected people's mental health in a lots of different ways. People are confused, people are worried, apprehensive about life, not too sure. There's a lot of uncertainty, even around, you know, going back to work and what the workplace is going to be. And we hear a lot of the times, you might have heard of this, even talking about it, these, you know, these words that we, you know, we're familiar with or not, now being talked about and used in a different way, like a hybrid way of working, you know, hybrid way of working. We're having to get used to that. And those kind of adjustments, you know, to ensure that we comply with government recommendations. Because I've worked with a number of organisations and doing lots of talks at the moment in time online, you know, around hybrid working, and what I find the model that most people use, and hopefully we can have a, you know, Q&A with myself and Ches afterwards and discuss the things that we've been talking about, is that there is sometimes there are organisations who are giving people the choice, and some aren't. You know, and some aren't. And actually, I think I saw a stat the other day that was a survey that was done that said that I think it was over 50% of employers were actually weren't giving people a choice. It was either come back into the office or, you know, or not, which was again affecting people's, you know, mental health, because everyone's situation is unique. I mean, this, and you know, and as business leaders and people who have responsibility over lots of people, then there is a duty of care of mental health. Obviously, I haven't got it covered within this slide here, but it's under the Equalities Act in terms of the, you know, the legal recommendations and requirements which organisations need to, you know, which they need to adhere to. Lots of organisations, managers are actually suffering significantly with burnout. Even well before lockdown, burnout was a, you know, was a huge issue. But recent surveys highlighted that over the last 12 months, small businesses and the pressures of small businesses and burnout is quite huge. And you can see some of the stats here as, you know, as well. And if it's you know, if in those stats here, obviously just for the you know, for the business owners, you can imagine what they're going to be like for the actual employees, you know. And this all boils down to, when you drop down to the bottom, in terms everything leads to, you know, tired all the time, or, you know, people feeling exhausted, not taking care of yourself, lack of conversation, you know, concentration is going to lead to stress. Sleep deprivation, which hopefully now that Ches has shared with you those wonderful techniques, we're going to see if you are suffering with that, we're going to use that. Low morale, lack of confidence, mood swings, short swings, all these sorts of, you know, all these sorts of issues that people are being, you know, are being faced with. I think, and more than that, you know, this worrying picture. The pandemic has caused a spike in stress and anxiety by business owners over the last 12 months. And again, you can see here at the bottom of some of the graphics, sleep comes up again, worry about money, what's, and that uncertainty in the future, because, some people were furloughed. Some people unfortunately lost their jobs, and, in the background, the economy, is taking a hit. So this is feeling like 62% have felt stressed. And so, it is a worrying picture, overall. Again, but it says in small business owners, this goes for, across the board for a lot of people. So that's why, the reboarding element for organizations is key. And anybody here on this call who has, is anybody actually who's on this call involved in any sort of reboarding process at all? If so, just feel free to just unmute yourself, say who you are, and just talk about what you're actually doing for your team, if anyone's actually involved in that. So I thought it'd be great to share that with everybody.
Yes, I am. Hi, I'm Leslie. I work for Martech Marine.
Hi, Leslie.
Hi. The first week, then we're back in the office. What we will be doing is we're asking everyone to come in to the office, and we're going to do a barbecue or something in the car park so everyone's together. But before that, in the next 2 weeks, we're looking at giving each individual team member a certain amount per head and asking them to meet up with the teams and go out in the groups of 6 for a meal to get people comfortable and
Brilliant.
to see people
Thank
again.
you. No, thank you for sharing that, and it's great to hear that that sort of being proactive in that organisation, because it's critical, because a lot of people, or the employees, it's understanding that they've been through a lot. Some people have known some people who have been hit down by the virus, lost people, circumstances have been changed, all these different things. And the normal way of being able to get rid of the different sort of stressors and the various mental health, whether it be going to the gym or sometimes going a bit of retail therapy, shopping, many of these things, because of the lockdown, I haven't been able to do. And so it's so important now that organizations and managers, recognize this and put certain things in place for for their employees. So that's really good. Is anybody else out there wanted to share anything? Awesome, good, thank you. So because here, yes, it's even worse, the communication, and I think it was the mental health First Aid England highlighted in a survey the importance of regular check-ins. Yes, we are going, many organizations are still haven't, going to a hybrid version. And so many times, and I hear it so often, organizations where they employ, where the managers and the organizations aren't checking in. And when we talk about check-in, it's, obviously we're all on Zoom at the moment, Simon. It's great that we're able to connect and communicate and get these messages across as a chamber. And organisations have had to change as well. So these normal face-to-face meetings in boardrooms or sat in office space has now been replaced by being on MS Teams, Zoom, or Google Hangouts or some other term. But what it's key to do is not just to say, to people on the screen that you're talking to, in a group huddle, are you okay? Because most people, when you say, when you ask them, are you okay? They're going to say, yeah, I'm fine. Most people, yeah, I'm fine, or I'm all right. And that's as far as most people go, because a lot of times if they were to say, well, actual fact, I'm feeling terrible, a lot of people don't know how to deal with that. Because one of the facts that I saw, I think it might have been early this year, on a course that was on, was that we spend so much time at school, especially in the younger years, learning how to read and learning how to write. There's very little time that's actually spent on how to listen. And so it's not something that we're very good at, because we're not necessarily taught how to actively listen. Because all the time when we're speaking, we're thinking of stories, we're thinking about our situations and circumstances that we've been in. So it's so important, if in organisations, if they're not checking in, if you're not in an organisation that's not checking in, then we need to ask your managers to to ensure that you are getting that that two-way communication, stuff like all the time. It's critical, it's important. Okay. The survey also found that women's mental health had suffered more than men's. Again, anyone wants to just unmute themselves as to say why they think that is the case? But so far, and I can give you the answer. That's okay. It's only mainly because women is quite straight. Women are talking about it more than men. They're more likely to talk about these challenges, and they'll go to the doctors and report these to the doctors if they're suffering anything, more than say men. And so that's what's reflected in the in these surveys. And just typically a recent example I want to just share with you. We're currently working with a CEO with a huge established business over a long period of time, and through the pandemic, they suffered significantly with their stress, depression, anxiety, which has meant that there's whether increasingly exceptionally confident and buoyant in a lot of the things they did. They weren't able to do this anymore, and they couldn't figure out why. And so roughly after a couple of months is working with this is CEO, their motivation, and they got the mojo, and they started to get the mojo back and feeling good about themselves. So rather than worrying about work, worrying about the future, they're able to be more mindful and be present and to deal with the things which they weren't able to do, or deal with things which which was putting them off in the past, and they've been able to to deal with it there and then. So just come to giving you some 5 tips you can put in your toolkits, which is going to help you or the organisation that you're in to move forward. I would say there's plan B, but there isn't really a plan A. It should be a plan A. And so don't plan for the plan B, okay? So straightforward, connect and talk. Communication is key. I mentioned earlier, I talked, in a previous slide, how the communication, those check-ins are critically poor. It's important, to do that. And again, if it's something that you're not familiar with, or, for business leaders or people, there are people within the forum and other organizations and people out there that can guide you and assist and support, out there. One of the things when I prior to setting up my business many years ago, these are one of the areas that I excelled in, and this was constantly checking in with my team, constantly checking in with people within the organization, with the people that I managed, just to make sure that they're okay and everything was fine. And if I was back there now, I'd be doubling those efforts. And in actual fact, many of these people who I used to manage, they still call me boss, and they still call me boss and still check in with me if they want any, if they want any CVs doing, or they want say a reference doing a check-in with me. So important to connect and talk. And now that the hope for the world is opening up, go for walks. Last week was the mental health awareness week. It was all about nature, because the surveys that are done over the last year highlighted that people were connecting with nature. And so now we're able to not necessarily connect and talk over Zoom, which is great, but let's obviously following the government guidelines, let's get out there and see people, and see people. Prepare and plan. If as Leslie was saying, I believe that it's key. It's no time to wing it now. I know that with lots of organisations that I'm going to be working with coming up in June, it's all around this, and so therefore we're putting in those plans. So we've got one eye on what the government are going to say that we're able to do, but then also having those conversations with your employees, making sure that you are seeing that you care, that they trust you, and you take them forward. And it's so important, I believe, that in order to because your employees are your greatest assets. Yeah, they are commodities. They're the ones who's going to win your audience, to move you forward and to continue that growth of the business, and also can save you as well. So it's important that we prepare, that we plan when we bring them on board, and we take them, sort of like with us as well. Then that prepare and board and plan also means that you may want to, if you haven't already, within your organisation, look at bringing, look to see if you've got an employee assistance program. Look to see if you do surveys, find out how everybody is, what do they need, how best can we support you now that you're moving forward. Because the person, the Shanes or the Evas or the Leslies, and the people that that you knew 14 months ago may not necessarily be that same person. And a lot has changed since you probably last saw them. Okay, you might see them might have seen them on a screen, but when you actually turn up into the office, it might be a different thing. So that's why it's also important to to prepare and plan. Okay, so important, arranging one-to-ones, and it doesn't necessarily have to be around work. I think it's just as important just to find out about them. And I know that I've done a lot of talks over the years, and I remember when I did a talk over in Germany a few years ago, and talked about sort of the key reasons of having sort of one-to-ones and sort of like appraisals. And it's just to getting to know the individuals, getting to know, how they take, how those people are, how they learn, how they grow, what do they need, how they can sort of help them, overall. And so, and again, if you're in an organization, it could be, if you're in an organization and it's not something you do, I highly recommend that they do that. And it's so many times that when we, prior to lockdown, I'd go into organization and do talks around mental health, or do some bespoke sort of training, with the group. The amount of organizations that weren't having regular one-to-ones, it was just, it blew my mind apart. It blew my mind, because organization, I've worked in a lot of I've worked in the private sector and the public sector, all over the country. And, and I probably said this beforehand, I can't stress it enough, the key reason why I was successful in those areas was with that, the relationship that I had with my team. Embrace this opportunity, although that some people have used this opportunity to learn, to grow, to go on courses, to learn things. And that's good if you've been able to do that. I know for myself, I've gone out and done lots of walks, I've read lots of books, and I've used that time effectively to identify what what my corporate clients want, what my clients want from their clinic in Sheffield, by just picking up the phone, asking them, how are they? How are you? What do you need? What's changed? And sometimes what they're looking for, I don't offer. One of my clients today, who I haven't seen for quite a while, I contacted them and they said, do you know anybody, do you do CBT, or does anybody who knows do CBT, or do you know anybody that can help me with hoarding? And I was able to say, no, I don't, but I do know somebody. And so, there's lots of opportunities, and just to, embrace it, manage your expectations on what's happening in the world out there. Sometimes, we do want things to happen. We are looking for things to happen quickly. but you know, sometimes it's just be patient and just allow things sort of like to, you know, to happen. At the bottom I've got there, which is one of my, you know, it's my biggest ones at the moment in time. This is invest time to practice, embrace self-care. For me, that is huge. There's a lot of things, you know, there's a great Stephen Covey book. I don't know if you've got it on the back, you know, behind you there, Ches, but is it the 7 Highly Habits of Successful People? I'm sure you've got it, you know, in the back there, you know, and he talks about the circle of concern and the circle of influence, you know, and so there's a lot of things which are happening in the world which are outside of our, they're outside of our influence. But there are a lot of things that we can concern ourselves with, and we can influence them, which is our self-care. And if we look after ourselves, then we can help other people who are not able to look after themselves. And but self-care, which is around about nutrition, your diet, your general health and well-being. And there's a lot of things that we should do in order to do so. And also for organisations, you know, because there is a duty of care for organisations to look after the employees' well-being, and so and the extension of that as business owners is to make sure that we look after them as well. And then overall and finally, it's just to continue to review and monitor what you've put in place. Critical to have those check-ins with yourself. Ask those questions: are you coping? I mentioned earlier, we talk about, are you okay? Yes, I'm fine. You know, what else can we do to stay mentally healthy? You know, organize check-ins with your team and manager. Understand how we're working. I think a lot of things have changed because, you know, a lot of the studies still state that, you know, 1 in 4 people, you know, within a year will suffer from mental health. But so many people, when you ask them, or in organizations, are you okay? Are you any challenges? Majority of people will still not admit it, and there still is this stigma around. But this is, you know, slowly is being eroded, but it's still, you know, but it's still there. So these are the reasons why reboarding, spending time with employees in your organisations, it's important to do so. I think some of these things I've talked about already. And then finally, because we do gather, you know, in terms of the chamber and the chamber forum, it's not just the in seminars and webinars and meetings that we've had beforehand. The questions that have always come back is, well, what about the small business? What about the solo trader, the one-man band, who might not be able to afford, you know, some of the services of some of the people, you know, within the forum or further afield. There is a lot of support out there, as you can imagine. You know, I've put a few on here. Your Mind and the Hub of Hope is brilliant. Actually, it's actually an app. You can download this app on your phone, and once you've got it downloaded, you put in your postcode, and it'll list a number of the local charities that can support either you, employees, or friends and family in the area. So actually, it's really good, and it's growing all the time. Obviously, you've got Rethink. You've got members of the Health and Wellbeing Forum, and there's a separate page which is featured on the Barnes and Rutland Chamber of Commerce website. And also, there's some brilliant information which is on the mental health first aid website called My Whole Self, and it's absolutely fantastic. There's lots of posters and information that you can share with members of your team, you know, within the organisation. This is just a snapshot of some of the organisations that I've been working with recently, and then finally, just to wrap up, just what we've gone through with yourself in terms of some of the essential tips: connect and talk. We've gone into to prepare and plan, have those one-to-one discussions, embrace a change, and a change brings opportunities for all. And once you've done it, don't just stop there. Continue to review and monitor But part of that review and monitor is to connect with, sort of employees, just to check in that we're all on the same, we're all on the same page. That brings me and concludes my presentation. Thank you everybody for listening. If there's anyone wants to come in with any sort of questions for myself and Ches, we're quite happy to do so.
Just before, while people gather their thoughts and kind of think of some potential questions, I just want to say a big thank you to Ches and Mike. They've been doing a lot of work in the background on the Health and Wellbeing Forum that the Chambers built over the last probably 6 to 9 months, and we've made a really good start on that. And Mike and Ches have been at the forefront of kind of making that happen. And that's kind of one of the objectives from that, is to run a series of events, and we've done that this week, and we've done them successfully. And it's not just what happens in this hour, it's kind of what you take away from it and actually what you put into practice, if that makes sense. So I know Ches, Ches and Mike, you've got a couple of documents that I'll be sharing with the delegates today. Do you want to touch on them at all and just explain what they are when they receive them in the inbox? Apologies if I was a little bit in and out there. Apologies for that.
Yeah, I can do. What I'm going to be sharing is just it's a document which you can use for yourself. You can share it amongst your teams, and it's just looking at a plan over the next sort of 4 weeks or so. How you can, if there might be certain behaviours or challenges that you've got from a mental health or well-being perspective, what you can do to make those changes, over a period of time. I've also got my details on there as well. So if you want to, arrange a one-to-one or an email just to explain how to use that, or if it's something that you want to use within your organisation, you want me to give you, I'm happy to spend sort of like half an hour or so introducing that for yourself or your members, then I'll be happy to do so.
Pardon me. What I've given Shane to send out to the delegates are 2 PDFs. One is what I call the Life Events Survey. It's a little e-booklet that I put together. 82 of the top 82 life events that will cause you stress. There's one for adults, and there's one also there for children as well. You might find that interesting to read. And the other PDF is an opportunity to gauge your own stress in terms of a little metrics that I put together that you can also score. And the scores and the explanations are given on the second page. But don't cheat. Fill the thing out first before you go to the second page, so you don't get power of suggestion. So there's a couple of things there that will inform you and help you, I hope.
Thanks, Ches. Thanks, Mike. And in addition to that, we've touched on this one about the Health and Wellbeing Forum. I'll also put a link in there for everyone, because there's some really good information from all forum members on there that you can put into practice within your business. So if there's no burning questions, what I'll do, I'd just like to bring the event to a close. I'm conscious we've just gone over the hour mark. So a big thank you to everyone. Again, apologies if I keep coming in and out. I don't think the internet's great. The weather must have bashed the cables or whatever it is. So I apologise for that. But hopefully you've got a lot of takeaways from today. I will be following up with an email afterwards. I can see you all smirking. I'm guessing I'm just freezing a little bit every now and again. So apologies for that. Thanks, everyone. Take care. And if you do need anything, please get in touch. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.